So what got me into politics was, just it's one thing after another, and it seemed to be the next step. John Rustad had come to the We Unify conference, and I met him there first. And he actually came to my house at one point and, asked me to run. And so at some point I did decide to run. And so running a campaign, because I was in the North Island. So North Island had been NDP for 40 years, except for one time in the last 40 years. So it was, I would call it a tough campaign. We door knocked, Peter and I, my husband, over 17,000 doors. Yeah. And that gives you the real poll of what people's concerns were, right? So what you hear in the media and what you hear from people talking is, two completely different things. So anyways, it door knocked 17,000 doors, countless of meetings, and won by 600. That's it. So I think that as usually people vote for party first, leader second and candidate third. So that door knocking had made the difference. So when you're running a campaign, I call it, when you enter politics, it's a bit of a game of chess. You have to think always 2 to 3 moves ahead, because everything you say is taken out of context, and Stephen can comment on that. So I've learned over, sort of even now, is everything I say, I'm always thinking, how can it be spinned around? So when I talk today, there'll be a panel, potentially, and you'll ask me some question, and you might not get the entire the entire story. That's what I've learned, just to keep it to my side, but get to where you want to get. So politics is completely different than what I had expected once I got in. Because I thought, you always think that politicians are lazy. That was my first thought. Politicians are lazy, and they don't work very hard. But I completely rethought that. Not all politicians are rocket scientists, but that's a reality. But they all work really hard. We're there. Basically today, there's a caucus meeting till 9 o'clock. Most days are, by the time you shut down in the evenings, it's 8, 9 o'clock. Get up in the morning and start again. And I'm at it on the weekends as well, just trying to catch up. And I think that's part of the problem, is there's so much coming at you from every direction, and you're trying to focus. So I'm a health critic, so I'm trying to focus on some health issues, but you have to focus on every other issues in a riding and every other concern like a constituent has. And I've got 1.5 staff in Campbell River, that's it, right? Yeah, so when people say, when you think of the volume of it, so out of those 12, 13 hours a day, I would say probably 8 of the hours are fluff, right? What I mean by fluff is, it's, you feel like you're doing nothing. You just sort of, follow the guidelines. You go into the ledge, and for example, when it starts, you clap the people you've invited, and the actual work, that the time you have to work is very small to actually learn about something, about an issue. And so when have you guys heard of, you've all heard of probably of the Health Professional and Occupation Act? Yeah, right. So when it passed, I sort of said, because I actually read the bill, and we've been working towards trying to repeal it. Stephen and I, before we got elected, we were doing, speeches on the HPOA, and we even went to the ledge to talk about it. But it's 265 pages, right? So 265 pages. And I'm sure if I gave tried to find out how many actually of the people that voted on it, if any had read any of it, meaning even 10 pages of it, I would have been surprised, because you have no time, right? So how it works is you have a whip, and the whip usually tells you how to vote, right? So when you see the NDP, vote on something, it's en masse, they vote, right? So there's no thought to it. And it's a little bit shocking, actually. So, and so here we are, a act that completely changes how healthcare is regulated. It's terrible, terrible for BC. I'm not going to go into it today, and it's passed. And the reason it's passed because nobody actually read it. Nobody knows about all the unintended consequences of it. So that's politics, right? So, and if you think of, the health minister, right? So Josie Osborne's a health minister, and she has the same schedule I have, but magnify that schedule. And, she's, oversees supposedly, a business of close to $40 billion, right? And then we wonder, why are we where we are, right? So I think the system is made to fail in a sense, right? I'm a little bit optimistic, and the reason I'm optimistic, and I know you guys have, looked at the news, and there's things that have happened in the last couple of weeks that we can talk about, in the panel. But the reason I'm optimistic is there are quite a few of people that think like I do not everyone, but in the caucus, and we really want to make changes, right? And so we're focusing on how to do that. Like, I know for myself. I call myself a bit of a turtle. Like, I need to understand the system before I speak out. I need to know when to do it, because again, it's a chess game. So you can bring something forward and it gets squashed. So nothing changes, right? So if you bring for example, I'm supposed to bring a private member's bill, right? So what does that mean? Well, government passes bill, but when you're not a minister, each one of us has a chance to pass a private member bill or a motion. And I'm number 14 of 65. So if you're a minister, you can't do a bill, but if you're not a minister, you can do a bill. So I'm number 14. So I have to think, how, if I put something forward, I feel really strongly about, and the NDP squashes it, that's it. It doesn't get debated. It doesn't get picked up. Nothing happens. Right? So then you start strategizing. How am I going to bring this forward in a way that you push back the system without it getting squashed? Right? And the other thing is, how do you bring forward all the issues we went through in the last 4 years? Right? All of those issues. And I think, the party's still finding its ground, to be honest. I think because it's a game of chess, and it really is, if you bring it forward, because the media is against us, we all know that, right? So if you bring it forward too quickly, even if it's the truth, it's going to get squashed. And then what? And then we end up with the same government for the next, potentially we have the government for the next 4 years, unless we manage to get an election. But so the idea is, how do I bring the issues that we have all gone through forward? And I've got a plan, right? I've got a plan. And so this week, I'm going to give you a heads up, but, because of all that happened, all the things that have happened, there's what you call question period, where you, suggest a question, and then it potentially is picked up for question period. So the question I put in this week is about the burning of churches, right? So how exactly? That's how you push back. You strategize. So if you pick on the other side and you say what you're doing is wrong, they're going to squash you. So what you do is you push back with what you know is done wrong here, but in the right way. There's what's called the budgets come out. I still have to figure out how to do that because we get very little learning, to be totally honest. I've got 12 or 13 hours of questions I can ask the health minister because I'm a health critic. And when I ask these questions, she actually has her I call it her lackeys around her, the people working in the ministry around her. And if I ask a question during question period, what you probably noticed during the parliament, they don't have to answer. right? So they just bullshit around and they don't answer, and then you have a rhetoric, and it's not a real debate. But during estimate, they have their staff around them, and they have to answer your question. And sometimes it can take 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes let's say they have to go research, come back, and they answer it. So this is where I plan to start asking a bit of the tougher questions, right? And bring forward a lot of the things that have happened in the last 3 years, but how do I tie it into the budget? It's doable, right? So it's all about like a chess game, right? How do you bring things forward and don't get squashed or put aside? And I think that's the key thing in politics. It's not straight. It's not right or wrong. We've had some amazing candidates that are no longer candidates, and we have amazing MLAs that are no longer MLAs, right? For speaking out on truths, right, or truths how they see it. But that's the system, right? And if you go in thinking that you're going to change a system, you're not. But if you go in with the idea that where do I want to be in a year or 2 years, where do I want to, educate people, I think then you can kind of work towards it, right? So, do I regret, running? Well, we were just talking about it. It feels like, Alcatraz actually, the ledge, because you can't step out. Like if it's your 13 hours, because they can call a vote, you have to be within reach, within 2 to 5 minutes. So it feels a bit like Alcatraz, to be honest. And so, do I regret it? No, I don't regret it. And the reason I don't regret it is there are more than people think, people that like me that want to change things. And it's not just MLAs. Some of the MLAs, some of the communications people, some of the, people that are the research people. They're people like us, okay, that have seen what has happened, and they're motivated, right? So that keeps you going. But if you expect changes quickly, don't. Right? I think that's key. Right. So, and again, it's how much can we push back? And I think we can, but I think we have to be realistic and do it in a smart way. So that's about it. Okay.